Persons with disabilities, or otherwise known as differently able persons, are a special group of people who are part of any society. We now live in an era in which we have moved away from the practice of labeling the persons according to the category of disability. We are more compassionate to get them included into the mainstream by enabling their participation in social sphere. This has been largely possible by the provision of equal opportunities in all levels by the government through legislation and schemes aimed towards their welfare. The other stakeholders like academic institutions, welfare organizations, social, cultural bodies and associations are in tune with the policy to protect and promote the welfare of the persons with disabilities. We will now see the various categories of disabilities. There is a clear definition and categories of disability so that there is no ambiguity in the understanding of the concept for practical purpose. This is found to be a vital source of reference for people to know about them and get oriented towards their needs. Blindness, no vision at all, low vision, person capable of execution of a task with appropriate assistive devices, leprosy cured but loss of sensation in hands or feet as well as loss of sensation and paresis in the eye and eyelid, or manifest deformity but sufficiently mobile to do normal economic activity, or extreme physical deformity and cannot do any gainful occupation. Hearing impairment, loss of 60 decibels or more in the conversational range of frequencies. Locomotor disability, disability of the bone joints or muscles leading to substantial restriction of limb movements or any of cerebral palsy. Mental illness, any mental disorder other than mental retardation, condition of arrested or incomplete development of the mind of a person. The letter and spirit of Indian Constitution has various provisions enshrined within itself for the persons with disabilities, which applies uniformly for every citizen of India. The Constitution secures to the citizens, including the disabled, a right of justice, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and for the promotion of fraternity. Article 15(1) enjoins on the government not to discriminate against any citizen of India, including disabled, on the ground of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. Article 15(2) states that no citizen, including the disabled, shall be subjected to any disability, liability, restriction or condition on any of the above grounds in the matter of their access to shops, public restaurants, hotels and places of public entertainment, or in the use of wells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads and places of public resort maintained wholly or partly out of government funds or dedicated to the use of the general public. Women and children and those belonging to any socially and educationally background classes or the scheduled caste and tribes can be given the benefit of special laws or special provisions made by the state. There shall be equality of opportunity for all citizens, including the disabled, in matters relating to employment or appointment to any office under the state. No person, including the disabled, irrespective of his belonging, can be treated as an untouchable. It would be an offence punishable in accordance with law as provided by Article 17 of the Constitution. Every person, including the disabled, has his life and liberty guaranteed under Article 21 of the Constitution. There can be no traffic in human beings, including the disabled, and beggar and other forms of forced labor is prohibited, and the same is made punishable in accordance with law. Article 24 prohibits employment of children, including the disabled, below the age of 14 years to work in any factory or mine or to be engaged in any other hazardous employment. Even a private contractor acting for the government cannot engage children below 14 years of age in such employment. Article 25 guarantees to every citizen, including the disabled, the right to freedom of religion. Every disabled person, like the non-disabled, has the freedom of conscience to practice and propagate his religion subject to proper order, morality and health. No disabled person can be compelled to pay any taxes for the promotion and maintenance of any particular religion or religious group. No disabled person will be deprived of the right to the language, script or culture which he has or to which he belongs. Every disabled person can move the Supreme Court of India to enforce his fundamental rights, and the rights to move the Supreme Court itself is guaranteed by Article 32. No disabled person owning property like the non-disabled can be deprived of his property except by authority of law, though right to property is not a fundamental right. Any unauthorized deprivation of property can be challenged by suit and for relief by way of damages. Every disabled person, like the non-disabled, on attainment of 18 years of age, becomes eligible for inclusion of his name in the general electoral roll for the territorial constituency to which he belongs. Here are some of the educational law provisions given by the Indian Constitution. The right to education is available to all citizens, including the disabled. Article 29(2) of the Constitution provides that no citizen shall be denied admission into any educational institution maintained by the state or receiving aid out of state funds on the ground of religion, race, caste or language. Article 45 of the Constitution directs the state to provide free and compulsory education for all children, including the disabled, until they attain the age of 14 years. No child can be denied admission into any education institution maintained by the state or receiving aid out of state funds on the ground of religion, race, caste or language. Here are some of the health law provisions. Article 47 of the Constitution imposes on the government a primary duty to raise the level of nutrition and standard of living of its people and make improvements in public health, particularly to bring about the prohibition of the consumption of intoxicating drinks and drugs which are injurious to one's health except for medicinal purposes. The health laws of India have many provisions for the disabled. Some of the acts which make provision for health of the citizens, including the disabled, may be seen in the Mental Health Act 1987. Family law provisions. Various laws relating to the marriage enacted by the government for different communities apply equally to the disabled. In most of these acts, it has been provided that the following circumstances will disable a person from undertaking a marriage. These are where either party is an idiot or lunatic, where one party is unable to give a valid consent due to unsoundness of mind or is suffering from a mental disorder of such a kind and extent as to be unfit for marriage of procreation of children, where the parties are within the degree of prohibited relationship or are sapindas of each other unless permitted by custom or usage, where either party has a living spouse. The rights and duties of the parties to a marriage, whether in respect of disabled or non-disabled persons, are governed by the specific provisions contained in different marriage acts such as the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, the Christian Marriage Act 1872 and the Parsi Marriage and Divorce Act 1935. Exist include the Special Marriage Act 1954 for spouses of differing religions and the Foreign Marriage Act 1959 for marriage outside India. The Child Marriage Restraint Act 1929 as amended in 1978 to prevent the solemnization of child marriages also applies to the disabled. A disabled person cannot act as a guardian of a minor under the Guardian and Wards Act 1890 if the disability is of such a degree that one cannot act as a guardian of the minor. A similar position is taken by the Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act 1956 as also under the Muslim law. Succession laws for the persons with disabilities. Under the Hindu Succession Act 1956, which applies to the Hindus, it has been specifically provided that physical disability or physical deformity would not disentitle a person from inheriting ancestral property. Similarly, in the Indian Succession Act 1925, there is no provision which deprives the disabled from inheriting an ancestral property. The position with regard to Parsis and Muslims is the same. In fact, a disabled person can also dispose his property by writing a will, provided he understands the import and consequence of writing a will at the time when a will is written. For example, a person of unsound mind can make a will during periods of sanity. Even blind persons or those who are deaf and dumb can make their wills if they understand the import and consequence of doing it. Labor laws for the persons with disabilities. The rights of the disabled have not been spelled out so well in the labor legislations, but provisions which cater to the disabled in their relationship with the employer are contained in delegated legislations such as rules, regulations, and standing orders. Judicial procedures for the persons with disabilities. Under the Designs Act 1911, which deals with the law relating to the protection of designs, any person having jurisdiction in respect of the property of a disabled person who is incapable of making any statement or doing anything required to be done under this Act may be appointed by the court under Section 74 to make such statement or do such thing in the name and on behalf of the person subject to the disability. The disability may be lunacy or other disability. The Persons with Disabilities, Equal Opportunities, Protection of Rights and Full Participation Act 1995. The enactment of the Persons with Disabilities, Equal Opportunities, Protection of Rights and Full Participation Act in 1995 by the Government of India has to be viewed as a landmark legislation that has made a huge difference to the world of the persons with disabilities. It was enacted in the year 1995 to give effect to the proclamation on the full participation and equality of the people with disability in the Asian and Pacific region, Beijing 1992. The purpose of this act, which was made into law in 1996, is to fix the responsibilities on the central government and state government to the extent of their resources permit to provide services, create facilities and give support to people with disabilities in order to enable them to have equal opportunities in participating as productive and contributing citizens of this country to the fullest extent of their abilities. It fixes its responsibilities on the governments to ensure the disabilities do not prevent individual citizens of this country from living a full life and making full contribution each in accordance with his or her ability. An overview of the Disability Act can be obtained by looking at the following aims and objectives. To spell out the responsibility of the state towards the prevention of disabilities, protection of rights, provision of medical care, education, training, employment, and rehabilitation of persons with disabilities. To create a barrier-free environment for persons with disabilities in the sharing of development benefits vis-à-vis non-disabled persons. To counteract any situation of abuse and exploitation of persons with disabilities, and to make special provision in the integration of persons with disabilities into the social mainstream. Pursuing the Act further, one can easily understand the provisions that contained therein are a great source of making the lives of the persons with disabilities better, as they include the following: prevention and early detection of disabilities, education, employment, non-discrimination, research and manpower development, recognition of institutions for persons with disabilities, and social security. The Act has set up a central coordinating committee at the national level to serve as a national focal point for disability matters to facilitate the continuous evaluation of a comprehensive policy towards solving the problems faced by disabled persons. A Chief Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities will be responsible to coordinate the provisions of the Act and ensure the implementation of the same with the state governments. Rights of persons with disability under the Disability Act 1995. Persons with disabilities in India are empowered with legal rights to have an enriched life on par with other citizens in the country. This status has been given as rights which are certainly a catalyst source in making their lives meaningful. The various rights are: the right to equal opportunity with the non-disabled, the right to protection of the legal rights of the disabled, right to full participation in the affairs of the life on par with those who are non-disabled. The disabled have been statutorily recognized by this Act, and the various forms of disability have been given legal definition. The disabled have the right to be taken care of and rehabilitated in the mainstream of life in terms of this Act, and the government and other authorities and establishments covered by this Act have an obligation to fulfill their duties towards the disabled in the light of the provisions contained in this Act. It is the duty of the central and state governments to take preventive steps so that the occurrence of disabilities is arrested, provide training to the staff at primary health centers, improve hygiene and health and sanitation measures, screen children at least once in a year, identify risky cases, provide for prenatal, perinatal and postnatal care of mother and child, and create awareness amongst the people on the causes and measures to be taken to prevent disability. Every child with disability is entitled to free education in appropriate environment up to the age of 18 years, and the government should set up special schools for imparting special education, promote integration of disabled students in normal schools, and provide opportunities for vocational training to disabled children. Disabled children having studied up to 5th class can continue their education as part-time students through open schools or open universities and are entitled to special books and equipment free of cost from the government. It is the government's duty to develop new assistive devices, teaching aids and special training material so that the disabled children may have an equal opportunities in education. The government has to set up teacher training institutions for training children with disabilities and prepare comprehensive education schemes providing for transport facilities to disabled children to attend school, provide books, uniforms and other materials to them. Scholarships, restructured curricula and amenities for blind students can all be given. There shall be reservation of posts for the disabled up to 1% each for those who have blindness, impaired hearing or cerebral palsy, for which posts will be identified by the government every 3 years. Vacancies not filled up can be carried forward to the next year. Special employment exchange to provide for the disabled who seek employment has to be set up by the government. All government educational institutions and aided institutions shall reserve up to 3% seats for persons with disabilities. Vacancies are to be reserved in poverty alleviation schemes. Incentives are also to be given to employers to ensure that 5% of workforce is composed of disabled persons. Disabled persons will also be entitled to preferential allotment of land at concessional rates for housing and for rehabilitation purposes. There shall be no discrimination of the disabled in transport facilities, traffic signals on the road or in built environments. Neither shall there be any discrimination of the disabled in matters of government employment. The government will regulate recognition of institutions for the disabled or for those with severe disability. The Chief Commissioner and the State Commissioners will look into the compliance with respect to matters relating to deprivation of rights of the disabled. The government and local authorities shall undertake rehabilitation of the disabled, grant aid to non-government organizations, devise insurance schemes for the disabled employees, and also frame unemployment allowance scheme for the disabled. Those who avail or attempt to avail benefits meant for the disabled in a fraudulent manner are punishable with imprisonment up to 2 years. The Mental Health Act 1987. Under the Mental Health Act 1987, mentally ill persons are entitled to the following rights: a right to be admitted, treated and cared in a psychiatric hospital or psychiatric nursing home or convalescent home established or maintained by the government or any other person for the treatment and care of mentally ill persons. Even mentally ill prisoners and minors have a right of treatment in psychiatric hospitals or psychiatric nursing homes of the government. Minors under the age of 16 years, persons addicted to alcohol or other drugs which lead to behavioral changes, and those convicted of any offence are entitled to admission, treatment and care in separate psychiatric hospitals or nursing homes established or maintained by the government. Mentally ill persons have the right to get regulated, directed, and coordinated mental health services from the government. The central authority and state authorities set up under the Act have the responsibility of such regulation and issue of licenses for establishing and maintaining psychiatric hospitals and nursing homes. Treatment at government hospitals and nursing homes mentioned above can be obtained either as an inpatient or as an outpatient basis. Mentally ill persons can seek voluntary admission in such hospitals or nursing homes, and minors can seek admission through their guardians. Admission can be sought for by the relatives of the mentally ill person on behalf of the latter. Applications can also be made to the local magistrate for grants of such reception orders. The police have an obligation to take into protective custody a wandering or neglected mentally ill person and inform his relative, and also have to produce such a person before the local magistrate for issue of reception orders. Mentally ill persons have the right to be discharged when cured and entitled to leave the mental health facility in accordance with the provisions in the Act. Where mentally ill persons own properties including land which they cannot themselves manage, the district court upon application has to protect and secure the management of such properties by entrusting the same to a court of wards, by appointing guardians of such mentally ill persons, or appointment of managers of such property. The costs of management of mentally ill persons detained as inpatient in any government psychiatric hospital or nursing home shall be borne by the state government concerned unless such costs have been agreed to be borne by the relative or other person on behalf of the mentally ill person, and no provision for such maintenance has been made by the order of district court. Such costs can also be borne by the estate of the mentally ill person. Mentally ill persons undergoing treatment shall not be subjected to any indignity, whether physical or mental, or cruelty. Mentally ill persons cannot be used without their own valid consent for purposes of research, though they could receive their diagnosis and treatment. Mentally ill persons who are entitled to any pay, pension, gratuity, or any other form of allowance from the government, such as government servants who become mentally ill during their tenure, cannot be denied of such payments. The person who is in charge of such mentally ill person or his dependents will receive such payments after the magistrate has certified the same. A mentally ill person shall be entitled to the services of a legal practitioner by order of the magistrate or district court if he has no means to engage a legal practitioner or his circumstances so warrant in respect of proceedings under the Act. The Rehabilitation Council of India Act 1992. This Act provides guarantees so as to ensure the good quality of services rendered by various rehabilitation personnel. Following is the list of such guarantees. To have the right to be served by trained and qualified rehabilitation professionals whose names are borne on the register maintained by the Council. To have the guarantee of maintenance of minimum standards of education required for recognition of rehabilitation qualification by universities or institutions in India. To have the guarantee of maintenance of standards of professional conduct and ethics by rehabilitation professionals in order to protect against the penalty of disciplinary action and removal from the register of the Council. To have the guarantee of regulation of the profession of rehabilitation professionals by a statutory council under the control of the central government and within the bounds prescribed by the statute. The National Trust for Welfare of Persons with Autism, Cerebral Palsy, Mental Retardation and Multiple Disabilities Act 1999. The central government has the obligation to set up, in accordance with this Act and for the purpose of the benefit of the disabled, the National Trust for Welfare of Persons with Autism, Cerebral Palsy, Mental Retardation and Multiple Disability at New Delhi. The National Trust created by the central government has to ensure that objects for which it has been set up as enshrined in section 10 of this Act have to be fulfilled. It is an obligation on part of the Board of Trustees of the National Trust so as to make arrangements for an adequate standard of living of any beneficiary named in any request received by it, and to provide financial assistance to the registered organizations for carrying out any approved program for the benefit of the disabled. Disabled persons have the right to be placed under guardianship appointed by the local level committees in accordance with the provisions of the Act. The guardians so appointed will have the obligation to be responsible for the disabled person and their property and required to be accountable for the same. A disabled person has the right to have his guardian removed under certain conditions. These include an abuse or neglect of the disabled, or neglect or misappropriation of the property under care. Whenever the Board of Trustees are unable to perform or have persistently made default in their performance of duties, a registered organization for the disabled can complain to the central government to have the Board of Trustees superseded and or reconstituted. The National Trust shall be bound by the provisions of this Act regarding its accountability, monitoring, finance, accounts, and audit. Here are some of the schemes with special reference for the visually impaired people. The visually impaired have been provided special schemes for uplifting their lives in the society. A brief account of the various schemes that bring great benefits are: travel concession by rail and air, postage concessions for the articles meant for education and rehabilitation, concessions in telecommunications, customs concessions for import of articles, machinery, and equipment for the welfare of the visually impaired people. And income tax concessions are also there. The lives of the persons with disabilities have found a new direction in terms of the concept of inclusion, be it in employment, education, social and cultural sectors in the society. This has not happened overnight, as it has travelled a long way by awareness creation, sensitization, and activism of pressure groups voicing their concern for the welfare of them. The global perspective, through many conventions at the international level, through research and surveys, has also lent their part to promote such a consideration for respective countries to bring about a policy and implement measures to improve their conditions. In India, the disability welfare movement has been deep rooted in the society, with many non-governmental voluntary organizations at the national, regional, and local level working tirelessly with the limited resources at their disposal to bring welfare and accessible way of life for the persons with disabilities. The shift from blind schools to integrated education and then on to the concept of inclusive education, for example, is the result of dedicated work of the non-governmental organizations. The concept of rehabilitation from the institution-based to the community-based approach, which takes the services of professionals to the doorsteps of the persons with disabilities, have also been carved into the system with the work of selfless volunteers who have specialized in techniques of working with them. The social system has been sensitized to create a barrier-free environment which will enable the persons with disabilities to live a life filled with equal opportunities. The credit for this has to certainly be given to the government and its various bodies for enacting appropriate legislations and ensuring the mechanisms that they are implemented within the framework of the law. With such a positive environment given to them and with the support of the technological revolution that is taking place around the world, the persons with disabilities have started to show their mettle by proving their worth as persons with excellence in many fields, including sports, which is a welcome step. The journey continues, and the quantum of empowered life should eventually increase by leaps and bounds to make the world appreciate the persons with disabilities.